Every trade show floor you walk onto today looks like a perfectly choreographed operation. But it wasn't always that way. The system we take for granted was built through conflict, disruption, collaboration, and a fight that changed the industry. What you're about to see is the story of how we earned the right for exhibitors to choose who represents them on the trade show floor, and why that fight still matters today. This story isn't in the rule book, but it's the reason the rule book changed. Imagine stepping onto a chaotic trade show floor, forklifts weaving through crates, the clang of metal, voices shouting over the noise, the buzz of last-minute builds, crews in branded shirts, electricians on lifts, people racing through aisles. When you walk onto a trade show floor today, you see it all. Union crews, general contractors, labor companies, AV crews, exhibit houses, and so much more. But it wasn't always like that. Most people new to the industry don't know the history. They don't know how we got to the official designation of exhibitor-appointed contractors, EACs, and the choices exhibitors have today. Hi, I'm Pat Alacqua. I co-founded one of those companies you'll see on the floor. Today, I'm a business growth strategist, operator turned leadership guide, and author of the book Obstacles to Opportunity, Transforming Business Challenges into Triumphs. I want to take you back in time so you understand why EACs exist and why your role matters and why the exhibitor's voice has always been worth fighting for. The truth is that EAC companies were born out of real conflict. And if you don't know the story, the forms and rules for the EACs operating on trade show floors today don't make sense. Back when I started, if exhibitors needed labor, they went to the general service contractor's desk, stood in line, and said, "I need 5 guys." They got whoever was next. The next day, they would return to a half-finished booth, a new line at the GC's desk, and a completely different crew. Exhibitors hated it. You never knew if you'd get 5 people or 3, or if they'd even show up with the right tools. Exhibitors were spending real money, but gambling every time. Trade show participation was growing. Bigger budgets, bigger convention centers, cities racing to add space. Exhibits were getting taller, heavier, and more technical. At the same time, unions layered on more rules: electrical, rigging, carpentry, freight. The GCs were the real power players at the time. They had the relationships with the unions and negotiated all the contracts, but with little regard for what exhibitors needed. Exhibitors, the ones funding the whole system, had almost no voice or choice in who they worked with. That was the frustration my company walked into, and it became the opportunity for disruption and innovation that changed the trade show floor. My partners and I decided to do it differently. We founded I&D Inc. Later, we changed the name to what today is Nth Degree, with one goal: serve the exhibitor. Not the organizer, not the GC, the exhibitor. Not long after, we saw a chance to raise the bar even higher. Our goal was to give exhibitors something new, a choice. We contracted directly with unions, guaranteed accountability, and trained our people to be professionals in a different way. Our crews wore branded apparel and brought consistency from market to market as we expanded across the United States. We didn't just train for skills, we taught perspective, the structure of the industry, the role of unions, associations, organizers, and so on. We wanted our people to understand the whole ecosystem so they could represent us like professionals. We also created the lead man system. the same person on install and dismantle. It was often called same man up, same man down. Exhibitors loved it. For the first time, they had more certainty in a system that had always felt unpredictable. It sounds so simple now, but back then it was revolutionary. It set us apart. But it sparked conflict throughout the industry that tested us from day one. In those early years, the tension with unions was real. Contracts had always been negotiated between GCs and unions, leaving independents like us out. If we wanted to serve exhibitors, we had to fight city by city, show by show, navigating challenges with unions, so exhibitor needs were represented. It wasn't smooth. Unions resisted because we weren't part of their traditional agreements. We faced deliberate roadblocks, disputes, even strikes in key city markets. City attorneys across the country called with legal threats. Union leaders pushed back hard, sometimes blocking us from the show floor altogether. For a young company, it was brutal, like fighting on two fronts, building the business while fending off external threats. Some days it felt like the whole system was stacked against us, and we were just waiting for the next hit. Looking back, those struggles shaped us. They tested our resolve, forced us to balance confrontation with cooperation and collaboration, and reminded us why we were there in the first place. It was to serve the exhibitor. As the union conflicts continued, another battle was brewing. Independent labor companies like ours were gaining ground in competition with general contractors. Exhibitors wanted us. The power players, the general contractors, the exhibitors long depended on them for all show services, and the GC provided union membership the majority of their hours and wages. All this created the hard pushback on us. Show organizers tightened control with new rules. Some shows declared exhibitors could only use GC labor. Others forced independents to buy labor through the GC or even the venue. Still others banned us from bringing our own ladders, gang boxes, or check-in desks. Rules varied by city. They were confusing, arbitrary, and constantly changing. Exhibitors were upset. They couldn't even plug in a cord without hiring a union electrician for a minimum charge. Through it all, the GC's customer service for exhibitors lagged. Their priority was the organizer, not the exhibitor. Exhibitors were funding the whole system, but had the least voice. So while we were growing and trying to scale a labor company in ways that had never been done before, our battles with unions and GCs were increasing. At times, it felt overwhelming. I guess that's why they say pioneers take the arrows. And trust me, we took plenty of arrows. Over time, though, we made progress. Conflict by conflict, market by market, we started to find common ground with unions. We began building training programs with union leadership to teach professionalism, consistency, and customer service. Skills exhibitors desperately needed, but unions had never been asked to deliver in that kind of environment. We began negotiating union contracts that finally addressed the needs of exhibitors and independents alike. In some markets, we eventually collaborated with unions to build training programs, teaching their members professionalism and customer service, skills exhibitors desperately needed, but unions had never focused on before. That shift from resistance to collaboration with unions over time brought real progress. Crews not only installed and dismantled exhibits, but learned how to work with the people behind them. Education and training became a core value for our company and eventually the whole show floor. Still, the competitive battles with GCs only grew more intense. We were the little guys, taking on giants who weren't used to being challenged, let alone start losing their market share. As more time passed, eventually it came to a head at OTC, the Offshore Technology Conference, one of the largest trade shows in the country at the time, held every year in Houston, Texas. The show declared it was closed to independent labor companies. Exhibitors had no choice. They had to hire the general contractor for their labor. No negotiation, no explanation, just a rule change designed to lock us out. That was the breaking point. A couple of companies filed a lawsuit. We were asked to join in, bringing our antitrust firm into the fight with us. Together, we argued that no one company should control all labor at a show. Exhibitors deserved the right to choose. On the surface, it looked like a dispute over one show. It was far more than that. It would set a precedent that could be used to block independent labor companies and other types of service providers from any show anywhere in the country. The stakes were high. The trial was dramatic. Industry media coverage picked up drastically. The battle took over 3 years. It drained us financially and emotionally. It distracted our leadership of our own company. Some of the things surfacing throughout the trial caused us to think we were winning. But antitrust law required proving multiple conditions. To keep it simple for this video, I'll just say we could not make the legal points we needed to win the lawsuit. The judge issued what is called a directed verdict against us. That simply meant the case was dismissed. We may have lost that battle, but we hadn't lost the cause. That wasn't the end. We organized exhibitors, we partnered with associations, we went to the press, we built awareness that independent labor companies weren't just a vendor choice. It was a matter of fairness, competition, exhibitor rights, our rights. The case gained increased national attention. Trade Show Week, the key industry publication at the time, called it an idea whose time had come. Show organizers saw they couldn't fight independence in court forever, over and over. Exhibitors rallied even more around the principle of choice. You might say the underdogs had struck a chord. We leveraged that court of public opinion, working with associations, exhibitors, and media to influence the industry to do the right thing, to allow the customer, the exhibitor, who was paying for everything that had created the growth of the trade show industry, to have a choice for who they wanted to service them. Out of all that conflict came clarity. The industry had to adapt. This is where the concept of the exhibitor-appointed contractor, the EAC, was born. Exhibitors could now formally declare their own contractor through an EAC form. What had been an underground fight became part of the official process. It changed everything. Exhibitors gained more control. Independents gained legitimacy. Associations like the EACA, Exhibitor Appointed Contractors Association, formed to protect those rights. It wasn't just paperwork, it was principle. Exhibitors finally had a louder voice in this system that they were paying for. Let's fast forward to today. The battles aren't as visible, but the dynamics haven't disappeared. Competitors still look for an edge. Show organizers and general contractors still prioritize efficiency and control. And too often the exhibitor, the one footing the bill, still risks being left out of the conversation. That's why this history matters. It explains why EAC forms exist, why associations like the EACA exist, and why exhibitor choice is still worth defending. The industry you're stepping into wasn't built overnight. It was shaped by conflict, perseverance, and the fight to give exhibitors a voice. Independent labor companies didn't just win the right to compete. They kept the door open for you so that when you show up today, you step into a role that others had to fight for. That's the legacy of EACs. And now it's your legacy to carry forward. Knowing this history gives you context, but what you do with it on the floor today is what keeps the exhibitor's voice alive. This isn't just a job on the show floor. It's a voice, hard won, and worth protecting